a senator just quoted the Attorney General's own testimony back at her before accusing the Justice Department of political prosecution. What happened next put the rule of law debate front and center.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Former Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson, who later became the chief prosecutor at Nuremberg, gave an address in 1940 when he was Attorney General, and it was titled Federal Prosecutor. He said, while the prosecutor at his best is one of the most beneficent forces in our society, when he acts from malice or other base motives, he is one of the worst. Unfortunately, President Trump, driven by clear malice, ordered the prosecution of James Comey, a prosecution which was rejected by a career Republican prosecutor who had looked at the facts and looked at the evidence for months. In a country devoted to the rule of law, it is simply unconscionable for the president to direct the Justice Department to engage in political prosecutions against the recommendations of a career prosecutor. Maybe you think this is small. Maybe you all know that Comey will win this case, as he said himself, bring it on, go to trial. But to me, it is much deeper than that. Donald Trump posted on social media, and the whole world saw his instructions to the Attorney General to go after his perceived political enemies, including the former director of the FBI, who, by the way, was a Republican-appointed U.S. attorney, served a number of positions under Republicans, was my law school classmate, so I know a little bit about his politics. He ordered the Justice Department to go after the sitting Attorney General in the state of New York, and he even ordered the entire Justice Department to go after a member of this committee. And if that is not chilling to my colleagues and they don't care about this, I don't even know what to say anymore. Pam Bondi came before this committee, and I asked her questions about this, and she said to me, and these are her words, politics will not play a part in our decisions. Here you go. So when Donald Trump couldn't find someone in the Justice Department to bring the charges against Comey, he pushed out Eric Siebert, a conservative Republican, by Mark Warner's account, a prosecutor that was recommended by the Republican governor of the state of Virginia, and he installed a White House aide to overrule the career prosecutors. He is pressuring the Justice Department about whom to prosecute rather than letting the career prosecutor make a decision about the facts and the laws. That's not justice. As former Trump White House attorney Ty Cobb said, we have a president for the first time in history ordering his AG to indict his enemies. And the AG, instead of being the independent force she's supposed to be, is saying, yes, sir. How can I get that done? Andrew McCarthy, a former federal prosecutor and conservative commentator, also said that this was a vindictive indictment, incomprehensible, and a mess. You know, I was a prosecutor for 8 years, ran a sizable office, and people would call, hey, don't go after that kid. Oftentimes the kid would be like 35 years old. And not once did I ever go to the career prosecutor and say, get rid of that case, don't do that, oh, have less of a sentence. Because when you cross that line, because you have had that kind of political pressure put on you, you can't go back. You can't go back. You took an oath to represent the government, the people, whether it's a state, whether it is the country, and not to represent, in this case, the president. And this is not happening in a vacuum. At the same time the president directs investigations and prosecutions of his perceived enemies, he gives pardons to and rewards his friends. The administration reportedly shut down an investigation into border czar Tom Homan for accepting a $50,000 cash bribe. The president pardoned January 6th insurrectionists who assaulted police officers in this very building. And he pressured prosecutors to dismiss a corruption case against Eric Adams. It was Hayden Scotton who was the career prosecutor in that case, someone who had clerked for Justice Roberts and then Judge Kavanaugh. And he said this when he was asked to do the dirty work. He wouldn't do the corrupt work. He said, you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me. That's what this is about. And all of us, elected by our states, have to look in our own conscience and think, is this going to be me? Am I going to go along with this? Or am I going to say something about it? Thank you.
Former Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson once warned that prosecutors can be among society's greatest forces for good, or among its most dangerous when driven by improper motives. That warning framed a striking moment on Capitol Hill, where Senator Amy Klobuchar condemned what she described as political interference in federal prosecutions. She argued that the decision to pursue charges against former FBI Director James Comey came despite objections from a career prosecutor who had reviewed the evidence for months. According to the senator, directing prosecutions for political reasons cuts against the core principle that justice must follow facts and law, not pressure from elected leaders. Klobuchar pointed to public statements urging action against political rivals and said such moves risk chilling the independence of the Justice Department. She reminded colleagues that Attorney General Pam Bondi had previously testified before Congress that, quote, "politics will not play a part in our decisions." The senator then contrasted those words with reports of personnel changes and prosecutorial decisions surrounding the case, arguing that replacing career officials to pursue charges undermines trust in the legal system. Drawing on her own experience as prosecutor, Klobuchar said she never directed attorneys to alter cases because of outside pressure, warning that once political influence crosses that line, institutional credibility is difficult to restore. She broadened her criticism beyond a single prosecution, pointing to pardons, dropped cases, and investigative decisions she claimed reveal a pattern, raising concerns about fairness, accountability, and equal treatment under the law. Ultimately, her message was directed not just at officials involved, but at fellow lawmakers, framing the issue as a matter of conscience and responsibility. Whether one agrees or disagrees, the exchange highlights a central question Americans continue debating: how independent the justice system must remain from political power.